Hello, my name is David Wells, all the time actually, and I am a friend of Amy Cameron's, and she's invited me to offer 4 short reflections on the Gospel readings of Advent for catechists and ministers and volunteers across the Hexham and Newcastle diocese. I hope you enjoy this. This is part 4 of 4. If you haven't heard the other 3, go and find them. In part 4, we're going to hop over to Luke's Gospel and meet Mary and her encounter with the angel Gabriel. But you may remember that we've been on a journey through 3 steps. In step 1, I asked you to consider the ability to, whilst you continue with your service and your ministry and your commitment, keep an eye open to the possibility of something new. In part 2, I asked you to consider, as the church does, the call to repentance in the season of Advent, that somehow Advent is an opportunity for us to make space for Christ, that we need to let go of some of the clutter and the anxiety that we've built up during the year. In week 3, I suggested that we meet Christ who gives testimony to the light. That light becomes his title in this reading, that somehow Christ brings light into the world. And what does that mean for us? That it dispels the gloom, it dispels the fear and the anxiety, because the light of Christ brings truth. And in week 4, we meet Mary, don't we? And the most breathtaking, significant, important interruption of all time. Mary meets the angel Gabriel. The interesting thing, of course, is that it's a bit tempting in the life of a disciple to think that somehow, God's going to work through our prayer, through our commitment, through all our hard work, through all our endeavours, through our plans and our strategies. But don't forget that even in the midst of chaos, Mark 13, cosmic disasters, or indeed during a pandemic when all our plans are laid bare and our strategies fall away and we're not even sure we can earn any money, even amidst that chaos and distress, God still works. God doesn't need our planning. All right? So one of the things I want to say to you, if you're feeling a bit discouraged or impatient or anxious or just disappointed, God is still at work. Don't be discouraged. The light of Christ is still shining. And God can work even when our plans don't. And here we have in Mary an encounter with an interruption. The angel Gabriel, who startles her. And then after she's settled, we have this marvellous dialogue that you'll hear in the Gospel reading. But what does Mary do in this encounter? We're told that she's perplexed, she's confused. How can this be, since I've not been with a man, she says, that I will give birth to Jesus? How can this be? Well, the interesting thing is the word to ponder. After her perplexity, she ponders. Now, the thing about pondering is, in our culture, pondering is like dithering, isn't it? Like, make a decision, get on with it, you're kind of caught between and you can't make your mind up. And you go, dithering isn't pondering. To ponder in the biblical sense is to hold. It's to hold close. It's to stay with what's just happened. That you reflect upon it, that you engage with it. She pondered, we're told, these things in her heart. That's what Mary does. She doesn't panic. She doesn't react. She doesn't overthink. She doesn't underthink. She surrenders and ponders. She's not running away from the truth or the challenge. She ponders. G.K. Chesterton once wrote, "It is our solemn duty, sometimes, to do nothing." It's so tempting, isn't it, to dive into doing. And of course, a life without doing would be folly. But it's so critical in order to understand that we reflect, that we enter into some form of stillness, that the truth, that the light of Christ can shine in that stillness. Pope Benedict said, if you can be still, if you can enter into silent prayer, 2 things will happen. The first is that you'll meet the real you. That's interesting, isn't it? Like, hello, how am I? The second thing is that you'll meet God, because in stillness you come into that sense that you're not alone. It's one of the things our churches do so well. Whenever you go into a Catholic church, you just get a sense of presence, right? It's something, it's maybe a gift that we have, but somehow it's so comforting sometimes to just go and be still. Sometimes to say nothing, just to sit and be in presence of God. But for Pope Benedict, pondering enables us to come into that presence, to be still, to not panic, to not overreact, to allow light to dispel fear, and to be at peace. Mary is the perfect example of Advent. She does it all. She keeps her eye open to the possibility of something new. She's emptied herself so that grace can fill her. She shines, she illumines, because she knows the light. And in this reading, she ponders, she considers these things in her heart. So, before we enter into Christmas itself, I encourage you, in part 4, to spend a bit of time with the Lord. Whatever that means to you, right? And may I encourage you not to try and impress him with words or an essay or a petition. Find yourself in a favoured place. If you can go to a church, it's always a good idea, but maybe it's a garden or a hilltop or just a quiet place where you can go and be alone with the Lord and just, forgive me, shut up. Just say hello and relax. You might discover that God's right there going, this is nice, isn't it? We should do this more often. I tell you what, I'll send you my son this Christmas to start all over again. Thanks for listening. I hope you've enjoyed these 4 reflections. I look forward, God willing, one day to a possibility where we might meet up. But for now, don't give up. Don't be discouraged. Don't be anxious. Christ is coming this Christmas into our lives again. And look to the light. It won't let you down. Lots of love. God bless. Bye.